So in this video, I want to talk about one of the example of SAT math problem. And the question is, which is equivalent with the following expression: 3x times 4 over 6x squared plus 27x plus 12, all of that plus 4x times y over x minus 5 squared. And if you look at the fractions, there will obviously gonna be two denominators, but one of them is formed by a quadratic one, which the leading coefficient of the x squared term is not equal to 1, and another one is formed by a binomial one. A lot of people think that this is not a binomial one, it is a nomial one because there is only one term. But we need to think about the square. We need to think about the term in square because square makes this whole expression binomial by multiplying again, which is x minus 5 times x minus 5. And using this pattern, I made one solution for it. And it is formed by step 1 and step 2. And in the step 1, we need it is a fraction, which means we need to have a simplification by having a reduction, unless it is multiplication or a division. And in the second step, leave every single terms except for a quadratic one, which the leading coefficient is not equal to 1, so it should be not equal to 1, and convert it into a binomial. The reason why we convert it into a binomial is that we need to make a common denominator together to make a reduction, to have a reduction for the simplification. But for a quadratic one, if you just leave it and try to find the factors to multiply together, it will make us the complicated calculation. So that's why we are converting it into a binomial. After we saw in this one 6x squared plus 27x plus 12, the biggest exponent in this one is 2. That means it is a quadratic one, which means we can factor it out. So factoring out the quadratic one into a binomial, that means we need to make this expression with the two nominals multiplication. According to a binomial theorem, if the x squared coefficient is just 1, it will just going to be x times x, which makes 1x squared. But thing that we need to care is that the coefficient of the x squared term is 6, which means these terms and this term should be a factor of 6. So for the factor of 6, it is at first 1 times 6, and in a second 2 times 3. And for these numbers right over here and then here, if you multiply together, we will going to get 12. And if we add it, we're going to get 27x. So we also need to care about the factor of 12, which is at first 1 times 12. And in a second, 2 times 6. And in a third, 3 times 4. And at first, we can just pick one of our choices here and then do some number possibilities. I will do 1 times 6 first, and if it doesn't satisfy with it, we can just input 2 times 3 again. And at first, the answer of this binomial is 3 times 4. I'll tell you a reason. Let's go in reverse order. And at first, if we input 3 and a 4, it will going to be 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3, and 1x times 3 is 3x. All we need to care about is multiplying the constant term and just a number with the x term so we can see if it gets us to 27x. And the 3x plus 4 times 6x, it is 24x. So it will gonna give us 27x, which is equal to 27x. So we can see that these factors is our answer. Then I'm gonna prove why the 1 times 12 and the 2 times 6 is wrong. So if we do 1 times 6 at first, so let's do 2 times 6 at first. And then if we do it, if we input the numbers, it's going to be 1x plus 2 times 6x plus 6. But 1x, but 1x times 6, it is just 6x. And then plus 2 times 6x is 12x. So, which is equal to 18x. But 18x, it is not equal to 27x. So we can cancel this out. And let's go to the third one. So for the third one, I'll go all the way here and write it. So first, 1x plus 1, we're just inputting 1 and 12. So, and then 6x plus 12. 1x times 12, it is 12x, plus 1 times 6x is positive 6x, which is equal to 18x. But 18x, it is not equal to 27x. So we can just cancel it out from our answers. And we can say that from this one, 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3, if we convert this 6x squared plus 27x plus 12 into a binomial, you're going to give us 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3. And we can do it in the same way with 2 times 3, but we already got the answer, which means we can cancel it out. We need to remember always that if we only need to care about the midterms, which is 27x, so we can convert into a binomial. So 1 is from 1 here, and from the 6 is from this one, and they're both factor of the 6. And for 4, it came from the factor of the 12, which is 3. And for the 3 one, it came from this one, which is also a factor of 12. So we can see that the multiplication between the 6 factor and the 12 factor should give us 27x. So here we can bring our whole expression down here, and it will going to be 3x times 4 over, in the denominator, we knew that after we factor this quadratic one, we got the answer 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3. So we can write this down here. So 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3, and plus 4x times y over the denominator x minus 5 squared. We could have just extend this x minus 5 squared term, but it will make our calculation complicated, so I will just leave it in that factor form, and we can simplify the numerators. So first, 3x times 4, it will just going to be equal to 12x if we distribute with the like terms, and then plus 4x times y is just 4xy, and in the numerator is still there. So in the numerator, it will going to be 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3. And then in the 4xy, so 4xy over x minus 5 squared. But here comes our a fraction property. If there is a two fraction, in order to have a common denominator, we also have to multiply every single term from the denominator except for a common one to make a common denominator. But if you look at our denominators, there is no common one. That means we can just multiply every single terms together, which will going to be equal to, if you just calculate here, it will going to be x minus 5 squared. So times x minus 5 squared. But since we multiplied x minus 5 squared in the denominator, we also need to multiply x minus 5 squared in the numerator, so we can keep an equal fraction. And then all of that plus 4xy over x minus 5 squared, and then times 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3. And also we need to multiply these terms in the numerator so we can keep an equal one. So 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3. And now they kind of share a common denominator, so we can write it one time. So there is our denominator, 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3 times x minus 5 squared. And in the numerator, we can just bring whole expression down, which will going to be 12x times x minus 5 squared, and then plus 4xy times 1x plus 4 times 6x plus 3. We could have just extended this form right over here, but before we do that, let's look at some choices. First, in the choice 1, there is a 12x that are same, but they just wrote the square root of 4xy. It will just going to be 4xy, not the square root of 4x times y, so we can cancel this out. And for the second one, they just wrote a terms that the denominator, the x minus 5 squares extension. So we can also cancel this out. And for number 3 is 4xy plus 12x. They just wrote 4xy times 12x, not the form that we multiplied to keep a equal one. So in this question, there is no answer. So all we have to remember is that in the first step, we need a fraction, which means we need to have a simplification. And then leave every single term except for a quadratic one and convert it into a binomial.